Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And today I'm coming to you from Gaia Thrift, as you can see from my background. And we are here at Midday with Reverend Don. Welcome. As you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into my chat room and we can talk directly. Um, I am going to be talking about the Black Moon today, and I am expecting Ed The Pagan as my guest, but he is not here yet, but he will come on when he arrives, and we will talk about what we're doing for the Black Moon. But first, let's talk about what the Black Moon is. And the Black Moon is the second new moon in a calendrical month, in the same way that the blue moon is the second full moon in a calendrical month. And this represents a chaos moment between the solar and lunar calendars. And like all chaos moments, is a time of great possibility. And I see our guest is about to join us. But when we have these moments, these chaos moments, it means that old patterns are broken and new patterns can be established. And therefore, we're very big on using this to our advantage and taking that moment to leave behind what we don't want in the old pattern and create the new pattern that we do wish to see. And with that, I think we can bring our guest on. Maybe. There. There we are.
There we are. Here we
Hello.
go. Oh yeah, it's just the world of today.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
I was having a little difficulty getting on, but it's the nature. Probably in Chicago, there's a lot of crowded internet space.
Yes, indeed. So, Black Moon. Hello.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I
Was
thought
that
for
a
a moment
question?
technical glitch.
No, was that a question?
Yeah. Let's talk.
Okay.
Tell me your take on the Black Moon.
Well, first of all, people, and it's been documented that there's a
Hmm.
lot of different sources for the black moon, but the black moon is relatively a new phenomenon.
Yes.
The idea of it, and the opposite of the blue moon. 1967 was the last time we had double new moons. And the idea of it was originally that it was the opposite of or similar to the blue moon.
Hmm.
The blue moon, as you know, is the second full moon in a month. And it's a day of frivolity and joviality, moose masses. It's been pretty historic. People have had fun with that.
Yes.
The
We want
black moon.
to Boris Spasskovsky in the chat room. Hello, Boris. Good to see you.
And so the opposite of that would be something that was dark, transformational, dealing with the shadow stuff. And so in our version, in one of the more documented answers, Dorothy Morrison wrote it in the Almanac of 2000. But
Hmm.
we in Chicago, I particularly, along with Tracy and Lee and a number of Chicago cultists, we were occultists at the time. We've been Wiccans in practice, but we practiced this as an occultist at the Avalon nightclub.
Yes.
People, Avalon nightclub. We began to play dark theater. We were doing a lot of darker, more heavy metal era, emo heavy metal era in the '90s, spell work and things like that at the Avalon nightclub, part of the entertainment. And the Black Moon Coven, which is is our coven, uh, more Gardnerian base, more of other types of bases, began the Black Moon rituals. So relatively understand, this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. So this Black Moon, 13th new moon of the year, very rare, we're going to do some practices. We're going to do something unique. And remember, the Black Moon rituals for us has always been theatrical. Not the same as, say, a Wiccan ritual or a pagan ritual or a heathen ritual. This is a theatrical ritual, meaning it is performed for a purpose. It has a message, it has energy, and everything else. And this one is akin to spiritual warfare. It is a theatrical thing about spiritual warfare in which we want to arm witches across America, called Witch Rising is a ritual, to arm and to energize witches all over the world and magic users, especially those who have been practicing, with a number of psychic and spiritual weaponry to counter the current Christian nationalist movement's spiritual warfare. Not their government, not their organizations, but literally the spiritual warfare of them praying every day against us. We saw it in Alabama. We've seen it in Philadelphia. We've seen this sort of rise, not only in conflict political, which is going to be dealt elsewhere, but this demand, Pastor Gregory Locke, for example, in Tennessee, against our very own people in Tennessee, are using spiritual warfare. So this very powerful theatrical piece also is embedded with energy from the crystal web, which is a tremendous construct of energy that we've been storing and using. All the practice I have, dealing with Fae, with dealing with shadow, dealing with a lot of energies. And we want to hand psychic weapons, spiritual weapons to witches through this theatrical event.
Very cool. And when does the Black Moon happen?
So it's 4:37 Central Standard Time. And that is so that people can get into it, because 1 hour later is the actual zenith of it. And it's a dark moon, really. We call it new moon because we've gotten used to it, but this is a dark moon, which means zero illumination from the moon.
Yes.
So that's the other thing. Even a new moon, they call new moons usually 1% illumination, and the dark moon is really that sort of thing. And that's on Monday, December 30th, just 2 days away.
Yeah.
More or less 40, about 55 hours from now. And we're still, people are bringing in their energies. They're still bringing in their things. And there's some really powerful things. One of the things that I think people are going to understand, one of the best healing weapons we have is the hand-to-hand, touch-to-touch ritual, which is antique. We've done it for a very long time. Phyllis Karat was kind of promoted it. Z Budapest kind of promoted it. Selena's kind of promoted it. It's been promoted at festivals a long time. And over the last couple of years, I've noticed that has faded. Since COVID, this ritual has faded. Prior to COVID,
that is a point, isn't it?
Right. And this was a powerful ritual where we would grow our circles by these sort of hand gestures. So I want to bring that back in, but I also want to make it sure that it can be used to break spell work, i.e., Christians who pray for us, if you can touch them, this will make them very paranoid, and it will be able to break some of that energy.
Well, touch is always a very powerful thing and inherently a very positive thing.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's how we do Reiki. That's how we do all sorts of things by touch. And some people don't touch with Reiki, some do. And in fact, most religious traditions, Correllians are too, believe in the transmission, and especially Catholics believe that you can't be a priest unless you're touched by another priest. And nuns too, that have been touched by St. Peter, whose basilica was just opened this week.
Yes.
And the concept is that every priesthood in existence of the Catholic Church has been touched by St. Peter. Most people don't know that, but it's one of the things. Because I was touched by a priest, not in the bad way, when I was talking
about being touched by Catholic priests that can have different meanings.
But I was consecrated as a son. And the reason I was consecrated as a son is that a father, a Monsignor, accepted I was on a Catholic path.
At that time. Yeah.
at the time. Oh, believe me, people don't realize I was trained as a Catholic to be, and I was
hmm
a deep dominionist, trained as a deep dominionist Baptist of the Southern Baptist tradition by one of the world's greatest evangelicals. He wasn't great at the time. He was literally starting his ministry at the time. So yeah, I
hmm
was raised for both those events. Hmm?
This is true. Well, one of the stories that I don't tell too often, but
Hmm.
when we first met, it followed a prayer on my part to see
Hmm.
what Christians knew that pagans don't. And then you showed up knowing all of these things.
Hmm.
And it was very enlightening. And hello to Reverend Michael in the chat room. It's good to see you, Reverend Michael.
Right. And so we began applying some of the principles that were not Christian based because people don't understand the term evangelical.
hmm
Evangelical means the spreader of good news. And one of the first things the Christian right did is they dominated that answer.
hmm
Most people don't know. Guy Kawasaki, one of my famous tech guys, was called the Apple Evangelist.
hmm
That was his official title. Didn't mean he was Christian. It means he evangelized for Apple. It means bringing the good news. I have been a pagan or a Wiccan evangelical, especially a Corellian evangelical, bringing the good news of Corellianism to the world. And I use some of the methods. And today, Corellianism is by far the largest tradition in the world right now. And
hmm
historically, no one has matched our numbers.
This is true.
So people misunderstand. I'm going to be in the next years, I'm going to be more dedicated to my evangelical side of myself, which is spreading the good news of Corellianism, paganism. Why is it better? Because I need to get that in. What turned me from Christianity has always been the question.
hmm
And so, yeah. Oh, you want me to answer it? Okay.
I thought you were leading into that.
No, I wasn't. I was just mentioning. I don't always. I rarely ever mention, it, and it ties directly into the Black Moon. So
hmm
not only was I evangelical, I was also a spiritual warrior. Up into
Yeah.
my 20s, I was a trained spiritual warrior. And people can argue that I still am. And so, in a lot of ways, this is my attack on that energy of the Christian nationalists that I've grown up with. Really, the dominionist prayer warriors. This is spiritual warfare. I want to disrupt their spiritual warfare. I want to use this weapon because the reason I left Christianity was a realization of. Uh,
Now, that realization has set off alarms.
oh yeah, and it has done that. Was over the years is that Armageddon is a war crime.
Yes.
Armageddon is a planetary war crime. And anyone who believes that the best answer and solution for humanity is Armageddon, which means the death of all things on earth, not the apocalypse, which I'm hoping to set off with this spell, but which is a revealing of a new world, revealing of it. And there's a lot about in the Bible about we needed to come and Tel de Chaudet, a lot of Augustine and all that believes that we were heading toward a divinization. It means we're becoming more godlike. That's the apocalypse. The
hmm
Armageddon is the destruction of the entire earth to throw it
We,
all into a pit of fire. Hmm?
we want to say hello to Lolan in the chat room. Hello, Lolan.
So yeah.
So
So,
the term apocalypse
mhm,
basically means revealing.
the revealing
Um,
in a dramatic way so that all can see. No one can deny that it's open.
and it is not at all the same thing as the term Armageddon.
Well, no, it's no. Those were two separate thoughts that got blended together in the
hmm
1500s, the 1600s, when war became more and more prevalent. Before
hmm
that, it was a vision of how the world was going to take it apart. It was a supernatural vision was a new supernatural. Armageddon was a supernatural fight between the devil and all his followers, and that. So it was a supernatural event.
hmm
And for some, and it was for some, and a lot of evidence to it. It was a recording of what happened to the Maccabees and what happened to a lot of early Christians. That the world, this sort of destruction, and the Jewish world got destroyed right after Christ. I
Yeah.
mean, their nations, their things, they got to spork. So that was the Armageddon. That was the idea that they will recover. And it was a lot about Jewish people recovering their land and their energy, and that the whole world turned against them.
Mm,
It's very much the energy driving the current war. That
mm,
there's only like 20 million Jews. I mean, the
mm,
fact that I mean, let's not talk about the Palestinians and genocide. Just to have so many enemies right now, and have
mm.
only like 20 million of you on the 20 million on the earth is something. Mhm.
I would say that in its way, that's something that that Western pagans can identify with.
Right. So whatever methods that they're taking, I'm not arguing any of that right now. I'm just talking strictly this arm. And the Valley of Medego, which is right, there in the Middle East, is believed that that would be the final reckoning of the Jewish people, and their great warrior would come, and that they would conquer everything so that they could have peace. Now, to be, let me be clear, I am somebody came out of World War II, not me personally. My great grandparents were killed in Ukraine.
Mm,
As part of the Great Jewish Purge. My grandmother survived. She gave birth to my mother. I am matriarchally Jewish
mm,
myself. And there are people like me, but my grandmother turned into a Catholic. The minute she hit the ground, saw 1938, Hitler on the front page, she gave up her Jewishness and she
mm.
never practiced again. But another story, sometime else, about
Yeah.
how I revealed. But in that moment, I realized that the infliction on people, especially then it came to touch me. I was just like 17 years old when I found out this idea of genocide as spiritual reformation, freedom, was just horrific. It's horrifying. Hmm?
You used to tell me about the evangelicals who would talk about all the people dying in Armageddon and be so happy about it, and that this is really a terrible thing
And
they're contemplating, but they're treating it as if it were joyful.
so, right, Richard Reverend Riser, the Doomsday Show, would speak about the glorious days of creation, not about about the viruses practicing the sacred art, the divine art, the devilish art of viral evolution, and how the meteors are a perfect clock, waiting for us, our doomsday, to send us a meteor that will hit us. I'm one of the world's best known. I actually know a lot about eschatology. And
Yes.
we did 9 shows. If you look it up on now Corellian TV, if you
Yeah.
really look it up, the Doomsday Show is there about my mocking of it. Do you know why I
Yeah.
stopped it after 9? Most people don't.
I do. Yeah.
My own staff turned against me and said, "People are going to believe you. They're going to come here and try to find the right Richard Reverend Riser."
Yeah. I think there were a number of people who did not realize this was a comedy. This
Even
was
though I
a
said it was. Hmm?
uh, even though it was stated right up front.
It
But
was.
today you look at the news, and how often does that happen? Someone is quoting this ridiculous conspiracy theory that originated in a parody site
Mhm.
that was meant to be taken seriously, and people do. It's amazing.
Well, recently, The Onion, who's in the battle to take over one of the right wing things, said something about a year ago. It says, "We can't write headlines more ridiculous than what is appearing now."
Yeah, yeah. This
And
is
The
this.
Onion, is just outrageous. They do outrageous thing and everything else, and they said that they can't. They literally said they cannot do pieces that were more outrageous than the news. They're having a difficult time doing parody.
I totally believe that.
Mhm.
Even I swear I have once or twice heard people quoting them as though they were an actual news source.
Too
And
many
people
times.
have no ability to tell the difference anymore. Some people.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and there's really hard to decipher.
So
Idiocracy.
the Right Reverend Richard Riser may have his little fan club. We're waiting for his broadcast to come back because
Yeah,
they don't realize he was a parody.
and oh yeah, it was, and he belonged to the Uptown Bar Grill and Church, where you can get a shot, uh, uh, a burger, and a bit of redemption.
Yes.
And the philosophy of the church is just you should sin as often as you can, because if Jesus died for our sins, then we should use it as much as we can. It would be an insult to God to do otherwise.
Yes, the Right Reverend Riser was a very memorable character.
Right. But he was meant to be a character that told truth of the ridiculousness of it. And now we're into it. So let's get back to the Black Moon. How does this all combine? Plus, I did the Great Crystal Web, which is millions of crystals, more than 1 million crystals around the world, put by thousands of practitioners, access points. Even 2 more I know got opened this week, maybe many more. Look that up. Get your access points in place. And it is originally it was, I call it the imagination construction, because I believe imagination is not a fake thing. They've tried to separate us from our imagination. You have to understand, imagination is very, very real skill. It taps into very real consciousness. Without imagination, there would be nothing else. We can't have a life without imagination. So there was that. And so it was built as that. And now more and more, we're seeing that it follows something, and people don't understand. I study quantum. Nobody knows quantum. We only have a bunch of theories and results, and we're trying to figure it all out. Anyone who says, "Oh, I understand quantum theory," then is smarter than the smartest man on earth right now.
Yes.
But you can study it and see some of the facts and things like that. And so what we're playing with is quantum entanglement, shared energy, and this sort of underlying strata of knowledge. And I think I really do believe, and this is what the Black Moon taps into, that what we call magic is a layer even beneath quantum. They're finding out there's something even beneath quantum, something that is more called informational society. So imagination taps into what is called informational, dreams and things like that. And great scientists have talked about these great leaps of faith, these great leaps of imagination, and how it affects the world. We talked about the observer theory, how it affects the world. Black Moon taps into that idea. If we can do this together, if we can believe this, and this is something that's happening, we can then disrupt spiritual warfare. And some of you are going to say, "Oh, prayers and all that spiritual warfare has no power." Fine. You are free to say that. But for the majority of the world that believes in it, they're giving it some strength. And I deal in egregors, which are conscious creations. Also, tolpos. Tolpos are individuals, creatures that are created by our minds into the world, psychics. And then we deal with informational bodies. I think fae, spirits, and a lot of them are informational bodies. They exist in this idea that the universe is made of intelligence, consciousness. Not intelligence, consciousness. And that and it goes back to our original theory, our original beliefs as human beings, that all things are connected. All things are one. Right? So if everything is one and there's this informational base, then that's what we're tapping into the Black Moon. We're trying to give ourselves these tools which we can see an effect. And I'm asking, if you're a paranormalist, I'm asking you to listen at that time we're doing the ritual for EVPs, electronic voice programs, or spiritual voices. I'm asking for people who have Schulman's consonants. I want to see any spikes. I'm looking for real evidence. So I'm a big believer that if magic is effective, you'll actually be able to detect it.
So the Black Moon is Monday. We will be posting the ceremony. What time is the broadcast?
It'll start at about 4:15 p.m. Central Standard Times on Witch Rising and on over. Here's where the real difference is. It's going to be over on 100 channels. It's the way it's going to be set up. It's going to go over 100 different channels. It will be hard if you're in the Facebook world. YouTube, it'll be easier to avoid. But if you are there in the magical world, you'll see it. And you can share it. You can share it out there. And the more people that become part of it, the stronger our defenses, our protections. Putting crystals around your house, start your storm water for this moon. Put out water, put out your crystals, light candles, do anything that you want, hand to hand, touch to touch, our circle grows.
Wonderful. With that, I want to take a moment for a word from our sponsors. And here we go. And thank you to our sponsor, Equinox Learning Hub, and also our other sponsor, Rev Don's Metaphysical and Magic Auctions, and we'll be updating you on when the next auction will be soon.
Mm-hmm.
And do we have any last minute thoughts about the Black Moon for people?
So not only participate in everything else, it'll also be part of where we're going to do it. You're going to hear announcements from the Corellian Church, Community Church, with our mission next year, which is profound. And this will also set up for 125-25, I believe is the correct date, of the alignment of the planet. So we're going to get ready for that. And if you believe in solar energies, if you believe in mystic energies, if you believe in astrological energies, we're going to start something that I hope rumbles the world. I hope this actually rumbles the world and begins to reveal our world. And then I'm going to actively pursue the Pagan Town, Corellian City Project. And
Yes.
and that's really one of the most profound things we're going to do next year. And what do I mean? We're actually looking at Danville, Illinois. I'll be perfectly honest. 20-minute city. I've got a lot of theories and things like that. We're going to start the ancient house. We're looking at elder house, making it safer, better. Because, Danville is another city at the battlefront of blue, what they call blue and red, and everything else. And yeah. And there's a lot of room for us here. There's a lot of free property, a lot of less costly. A lot of, we can put people in houses for under $100,000.
Yes.
Without mortgages around. I mean, that's the whole payment for like 4 or 5 bedroom houses. And we also want to get in elder care next year. So why are we doing this? Well, we need some energy. The Black Moon represents the energy to protect us, to join us, to unify us enough to get the space we need to be able to do this project, to make a safety and sanctuary for everyone around. And the first financing method is Gaia Thrift.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, that's it. I mean, we're going to hear more. I want you, to observe and to attend through the various pages, and let's begin.
And it will be anything you've seen before.
Huh? I think it'll be different.
It will. I know it will because we're working on that.
Right, and it's experimental and it's theatrical. Because
Yes.
the Black Moon. Oh, did we ever mention it? Did we ever mention that this is the 13th moon? That when this comes to pass, people will start this as a conspiracy. If we do it right, one of the things they're going to is this with us.
As we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do. Help us to move forward into the new year with strength and joy, and to take power from the Black Moon to help to shape our lives and our future in the directions we hope they will go. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love. Knowing you're always with us, we thank you for your presence. May you be blessed now and always. May you be blessed now and always. And I will see you again on Monday.